Assalamu alaikum. This is the second chapter of Creative Chaos Learning Series. Today we'll be talking about Google AMP. Does anybody know how the Google AMP, what Google AMP is and how does it work?
No.
Great. So Google created this accelerated mobile pages because they wanted to rely on Google AMP for speedifying the indexing of the pages on Google bots. So they introduced Google AMP. It was just plug and play of different components, different in pages, and the main motto was design the pages that are lightweight, they are mobile first, and they support Google indexing bot. And it was a success at that time because it was working on multiple areas of interest, and it was making some pages to go on top when they were supporting Google AMP. Later, they decided that core web vitals are more important, so they dropped the idea of Google AMP for websites, but they are still supporting it on multiple platforms. You can build your applications in that. So let me introduce myself first, and we can dig into that area. So myself, Khalid Hussain, I'm a front-end architect. I have over 7+ years of experience working in multiple technologies. I stumbled upon Google AMP last year when I was working with a client who wanted to build dynamic email templates. So the major focus for me was on the emails, but there are different areas that it supports. So for example, website, you can build a complete website. You can build a simple HTML file and include the AMP components in that. On the other end, you can create stories just like we have for WhatsApp, we have for Instagram or Snapchat. Those stories will work with that. Just like for the marketing, then there are emails. That was my major focus. So the main idea behind that was building a complete small application that would work in your email. So you can interact with it, you can search for any item that is supported by your APIs, and then you can show anything that is coming from the backend. And then there were Google Ads. So I hope you have seen some Google Ads on that. So there's a small sign with these ads, like an electric sign that tells you that this ad is built in Google AMP. So what they did was they created a small caching engine on Google. What that would be doing is that would be caching all of your assets and then showing it a UI on the user so that it's speedily available. And it was using Google caching, so it was always faster than loading a simple website or simple email. So do you have any questions as of now on this? I think not. So
I do have one question.
Yep.
तो ये कैशिंग मैकेनिज्म है, ये क्या आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स सपोर्ट करता है या फिर हमें कुछ खुद से बिल्ट इन करना पड़ता है?
ये ईमेल्स और एड्स और स्टोरीज के लिए आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स सपोर्ट करता है, बट फॉर वेबसाइट इट कैन बी इंटीग्रेटेड विद योर ओन कैशिंग सिस्टम और फॉर द एड्स. बट आपका ईमेल या गूगल एड्स या स्टोरीज जो भी होती हैं वो गूगल के सर्वर के थ्रू जाती हैं, तो ईच कॉल कैन बी कैश्ड. It's most probably cached on the Google server. So if the same call is happening twice, it would not be reaching your server, but it would be just returning the data from the cache.
Sir, lots of distortion आ रही है हसनैन अली की एंड से, आई गेस. तो जो आपने आंसर करा वो आई थिंक मुझे तो प्रॉब्ली डिस्टॉर्शन की वजह से नहीं समझ आई, बाकी को मुझे नहीं पता, so it would be great if you repeat your answer. Thank you very much.
So वेबसाइट्स के लिए दे आर होस्टेड ऑन योर ओन सर्वर, तो आप कैशिंग मैकेनिज्म जो भी है वो आप अपना कैशिंग मैकेनिज्म उसके लिए बिल्ड कर सकते हैं. बट फॉर स्टोरीज, फॉर ईमेल्स एंड फॉर एड्स इट वुड बी गोइंग थ्रू गूगल सर्वर. कि आपके अगर कोई एपीआई कॉल हो रही है तो वो पहले जाएगी गूगल के कैशिंग सर्वर को. इफ इट्स अवेलेबल, डाटा इज अवेलेबल देयर, और इमेजेस या जो भी एसेट्स हैं आपके उस स्पेसिफिक पोर्शन में, वो उसको शो करेगा. और अगर कैशिंग में पड़ा है तो वो कैशिंग से उठा देगा, नहीं तो आपके सर्वर को हिट करेगा, वहां से लाकर कैशिंग में रख देगा, एंड इट विल नॉट बी मेकिंग दैट कॉल अगेन फॉर सम टाइम फॉर द कैशिंग पर्पस.
Thank you.
So the first is AMP website. It's simple, it's robust, it's fast because it's using smaller or lightweight JavaScript elements, and it has a huge library of components. So if you look at the built-in components that it supports, it has a huge list of components that you can utilize. You can build form, you can build and gist, iframe, or you want to include a video, or you want to just simply build an autocomplete. So what you need to do is you need to have this script integrated in your page, whether it's email or whether it's ad or whether it's website, and then it can fetch the data or from its own state, or it would be calling your API to get that information and showing the data over the UI. So it's similar to if you guys have worked with handlebars. How many of you have worked with handlebars?
Not me.
Yeah, I think that's something that we use for dynamic templating, for showing the dynamic data. It was used majorly for building something out of the box, but those things are catered in newly frameworks for the websites. But we will still use handlebars, we will still use Google AMP. So the idea of having these kind of tags is similar to what Django is using, what Django templating is using, what handlebars is using, and it's similar to them in the Google AMP as well. So it would be fetching all the data and showing it over the UI. It can be a drop down. It can be something that you would design by yourself. It's all up to you because you have the hold on the HTML, but you can still rely on built-in components. And if you want to build accordion or something like that, you can build in the similar fashion. You can show it like section 1, section 2, section 3, and then on expand. For the AMP, it's specifically AMP image instead of image tag. To show all the images, it would be fetching from your server, but it would eventually it will be an image tag in your browser. But by default, you have, if you entered img tag in your HTML, it would be making it as invalid AMP. So it would not be rendering that. So it has some grab and go components, like if you have the data available, you can build carousel, you can build animations, you can build accordion, you can build autocomplete. Basically, all of the components are available. If you need to build a component, you can build it, but majorly all the components that are needed to build these things are available. So you can just pick it up and use it. So they do provide an playground where you can write your code, test it out for different environments. For example, if you look at this playground, this is a simple hello world page. You can check it on different pages, like you can build it at custom, you can build it as for responsiveness, checking for responsiveness, or for different devices. And there are some good templates here that you can use. For example, if you need to build an autocomplete, so its code is available. If you look at here, we have autocomplete, form, bind, mustache. These are some of the things that are used in order to bind the data. And then like this data is available in stat, and you can filter it out like this and search for it. So successfully submitted this data. So it's relying on AMP forms to submit your data to your API. And just like JavaScript, you can build an on item, input debounced or something like that, whatever is suitable for your case. And then for this purpose, if is initial is available, then it will show initial, or if it's not available, this means it's available hash, and this tilde sign means it's not available, then it will be relying back on some of the data that you want to show. So it's really something that is to look up for. You can check if it's valid. So if I am to just remove this tag, then it would be showing the errors here. So you can test it out, like what is feasible to be used in your page or your email. Then you can definitely check it out. You can export it or test out your HTML. So it's a really helpful tool if you're building out the web pages. So it is supported by multiple frameworks. Some of them are Cantico, 11ty, Fast Commerce, Squarespace, WordPress, and Next.js. So it has a complete list of frameworks available in here for the CMS or the content platform. You can use it with multiple things on where it will be rendering flawlessly, and where you can include this in your application to enhance your speed of your application. And some of the features for this are, yep. So some of the features for this is it's fast loading. It provides support for lazy loading of things. Like if you're loading an image, by default, it would be lazy loading, and it would be showing an indicator that this image is being loaded. You can optimize visuals according to your need. You can write your CSS for that, and it will be complying with that. It's really engaging because like the old pages or like the other pages, it's not something that would be taking a lot of space or a lot of time, but you can make use of engagement in this, and it's definitely a mobile first, so it would be rendering according to the mobile pages. So if you're looking at showing an image and you're writing the image width height for that, it would be optimizing that according to the mobile view or the web view or the tablet, wherever you are utilizing this. Any questions on this?
Yes, I do have a question.
Sure.
So like this kind of libraries, we have like kind of the Bootstrap and some other libraries we already have that also provide those kind of functionalities to pre-build the accordion and all the other functionality. You can use this script and you can utilize, and all the UI level kind of things would be available to use on your app or mobile app, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I understand the advantage of AMP is, if I used that library, that would helpful for me on the basis of, by the use of this library, Google will cache my app on their caching server and render for and serve from the caching server first. If it's not, then it would hit on my server where the app is hosted and get the data and show it accordingly. Is it correct?
Yes.
right? That's the whole purpose of the AMP, Google AMP. That's the main focus and that's the main utilization of the Google for this library. Is that correct?
Yes. So if you look at that, if you're using Bootstrap or Material UI or any other UI library that has a huge chunk of JavaScript to be loaded or CSS file to be loaded.
Right.
So what it enforces is you use the smaller chunks of JavaScript. Like if you're using the dropdown or something, you can just use that code for that, and you write your CSS inside the HTML. You can definitely point it out from a different server, but it's highly recommended that your everything should be in the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question. Um, so what I could understand is it is similar to, is it similar to progressive web app? If not, then like I couldn't really grasp it.
So progressive web app is something different. Uh, it caches thing on your browser instead of caching it on Google. So progressive web app is built to be available offline so that you can interact with the application, and once you're online it will be emitting that data to the server and you will be getting the latest copy of the data and you can utilize that. So meanwhile app website is completely different. It's majorly used for speedifying your website. It's for caching the data properly so you don't have to care about the caching.
Okay.
So these are completely separate entities. They work differently. They can work together, but they work separately. So if you're building a progressive web app, you can definitely include AMP pages in there.
Okay, so if I need a website that's also mobile friendly and I want it to be fast and robust, so I should choose Google AMP, right?
Yes, but as I stated earlier, now that Google is relying on core web vitals for the web pages, so I would suggest whatever you use, you should focus on the core web vitals. If they are good, then your page is loading fast and it will be on the top of the search engine instead of relying on just the AMP.
Thank you.
Fahad has a question.
Yes.
Yep.
So, oh, okay. Hey, Khalid. Khalid, first, thank you for helping understand us about Google AMP. So, my question is something that you may answer right now or towards the end, entirely up to you. You mentioned that we can use Google AMP to create websites, right?
Yes.
Now, my question has two parts. One, how much coding knowledge you should have you should know in order to use Google AMP. Second part of the question is how would you compare Google AMP to other solutions such as Squarespace or other solutions that let you build websites fairly quickly with less knowledge of coding?
So it's AMP website is something that you would definitely need to understand the coding. It's not something just plug and play. You'll have to know how to use these things. And if you compare it with Squarespace or something like that, Squarespace does support using AMP components in their web pages, but for that specific section, you'll have to write code or you'll have to write the styling for this because uh, just like Bootstrap or Material UI, it's using the default layout of the component. So if you're using a form or button or something like that, it would just be providing you with a basic styling. You'll have to write styling for that and everything for that to be visually appealing.
Okay, so if my understanding would be then it is not as easy as Squarespace if I was to create a website, a simple website.
Yes. So for developer,
Okay.
it's really friendly. For non-techie guys,
Non-techies.
it would require some
Okay.
efforts.
All right. Thank you, Khalid. Thank you.
No problem. Should we proceed, or does anybody have any other question? I think we can proceed. So the next section for this is AMP emails. AMP email is something dynamic, uh, something you can interact with. It's not simply boring emails. You can build out a really engaging UI for that. For example, for this image, if you look at this, it's basically showing you a product that you left in your cart. You have the ability to change the quantity if you want. For example, if you want to buy 5 items of this, you can just click on plus and you can buy these 5 items. Or if you want to select any other variant for this, you can choose it. You can enhance it to choose the colors. For example, if they want to buy the pink color or the yellow color, you can have that available in your emails. And it has some prerequisites. You need to be approved by Google. So the requirements for that is sender email needs to be approved, sender domain needs to be approved, and the sending IP. Like if you're using SendGrid or any other tool to send the emails, you'll definitely need that to be approved by Google. And it's a bit of slow work because that usually take 5 to 7 working days to approve these things for you so that you can use your email to do that. So for this, you can not use just a simple Gmail ID. You have to have your own domain and the domain email. And just like any other email, it has some limitations. The size is one thing. All the images or all the calls that you need to make to your server or any other server should be on HTTPS. If something is on HTTP, your email will not be rendered, and you should not add incorrect styling attribute like you cannot use z-index or something like that in your emails. So you have to be careful with choosing what is supported and what is not, because one single attribute incorrect attribute will lead to incorrect email, and your Gmail will not be supporting that. And some of the supported email clients are Fair Email, Yahoo Mail, Gmail, and Mail.ru. So for each of them, you have to get your IP, email, and domain approved. They have different criterias to be provided with, and so that they can approve your email. And after that you can start sending the emails. But before that, if you send an email, it would not be an AMP email. So just like website, there are 2 playgrounds supported for this. One is Gmail has created their own playground, and you can also use the AMP playground. AMP playground also supports email. So if you look at AMP playground, there's a drop down where you can validate your email. Like this is the email that would be shown in the UI, or from here you can choose any other thing that you want to show in your email. But the only requirement for this is you have to have AMP project, JavaScript included. Styling would need AMP custom, and AMP for email boilerplate would be needed for this. And the most important thing is this tag needs to be on your HTML. So that way Google will know for sure, like this is an AMP email and I need to be doing some extra work in Gmail to show this email. So it can be something to interact with the backend, or it can be something to fetch some data or fetch images or something like that. And if you look at the Gmail playground, it's amp.gmail.app/playground, and you can paste your code here. It would show you if it's a valid. If it's valid, then pass. If it's not valid, then it will be showing as fail, and nothing will be rendered on this side. So there are some other examples here as well that you can use to show. Like if you want to show accordion in your email, that is definitely possible with Google AMP, and or any other thing that deem fit for your email design. And some of the feature for this is just like your React.js applications or Vue.js or Angular or any other application, you can manage your state in your email. You can have form submissions in your email. You can interact with the API. But the main thing is you need to have the HTML of the initial render in your email when you are sending this email. After that, once it's loaded, it can interact with the backend, but at the time of loading, it would rely on your initial render. And the usage for this is some of the industry giants are using it, like booking.com is using it to show this data. There are tabs here. You can see for only international, only data, domestic, or things like that. I do have an example of this open. So this is an email that I built. This is basically one product. This is another product. Then there was another product that was carbon neutral product. So you can interact with it. If you want to change the quantity, it would be reflecting the pricing. It would be updating the total here by connecting with your API. If you want to choose another size for a product, you can choose it, and it would be relying on that specific item, like with that variant, what would be the price of that, and it will be adjusting that accordingly. You can cross it out, and that will be reflected. If you don't want to buy this item, you can just remove it, or if you change your mind, you can just click on plus, and it would be shown here, and you can buy it again. So these links, this is the link that would take you to the website where you can buy this item. So it would be showing all of the items. Like for this, it would be delivery every 2 weeks. It would be size 10 with this price. And now that I have removed this item, if I go to the checkout, it would not be reflecting this item in the cart. And let's see. So there can be multiple use cases for this. So you can use it for reset password. Instead of having user to come to your website and reset the password, they can do it in the email, and they can just simply come to your website and sign in. If you want to build an feedback system, for example, we usually get the emails like how much satisfied are you with our service. So instead of making it images and landing the user on our website, you can do that in the email. For specific email that I just showed you, that was an abandoned email from Shopify. So these products were added on Shopify. Someone abandoned these, and these products are coming to them like, you left something in the cart. If you want to buy it again, or if you want to buy just one of them, you can simply check out from the email. Or something like when you need instant reply. For the instant reply, GitHub ran a simple, what do you call it, a program for that. So you can simply comment, there was an inbox text area in your email, and you can simply reply to a thread on your from your email instead of going to GitHub. And you can definitely use it for marketing your product. For simple emails, it would just be showing all the images, but with AMP, you have the ability to make it more interactive. Like you can show them, these are the variants available. If you simply want to buy it, just click here and we'll take you to the checkout page, or you can simply run the campaigns. For example, different E-commerce stores run campaigns like this is something that we have new here. If you want to buy it before it reaches the market, you can simply buy it from here. So it definitely depends on your use case, how you want to use the Google app for emails. And just one thing is you need to make sure that your initial email size is under 250 kbs. So your HTML should be under 250 kbs. JavaScript it can load, and CSS is included in that HTML, so that is counted as the size as well. Any questions on this?
So I have a question. This is very useful. क्या ये सिर्फ Gmail के लिए है या ये Outlook वगैरह कहीं पर भी ये emails जो है वो render हो जाएंगी?
Different email clients are starting to support it. Initially, it was just Gmail and Mail.ru. Then Yahoo joined in as well. Fair Email joined in as well. But for now, Outlook does not support it. So what you have to do is when you're sending the email, you need to have standard HTML as that part of that. So if you send an email with SendGrid, it's usually 3 layers. One is top of them should be AMP. Second one should be HTML, standard HTML. And the third one would be a simple text. So if an email client does not support AMP, that would be relying on the HTML part of your email.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep. Anyone else? Not, then I think we can continue. So the last is AMP for ads. You can build out your AMP ads. It would reduce your complexity. You can collaborate, collaborative community, because there are people supporting Google AMP for ads. And as they are interactive, just like email, you can show multiple products, you can show animations, you can show pretty much everything that that can attract a user. So it would be loaded on their website, on your website or any other website if you're running a campaign with Google Ads or any other ads. So it would, there are some limitations on the size of output depending on what the banner size should be. But you can definitely do all of the things that you are doing with email in the ads. So it's similar to that. It's faster, it's lighter, it's safer, and it's using Google caching mechanism. So once an ad is uploaded on Google to be run through, it would be relying on Google caching mechanism. It can definitely communicate with your API, but your API has to be smooth enough to support such large input from different clients. And there is some documentation of the tools that you can use. For website, there are some tools that support that. For website, there are tools like InstaPage, Unbounce. They are supporting some built-in components that you can do it on their end. Then there are stories that you can utilize, different tools to help you build more smooth stories. For ads, there are some other tools as well. And for email, you can build it or yourself, or you can rely on a third-party service that can help you build these emails. So that was it from my side. If you guys have any questions for me, please feel free to ask.
Okay, shall I start asking the things?
Yep.
Okay, so thank you so much for detailed insight about Google AMP. I do have a couple of questions related to data sanitization, bundle and disk size impact, DOM size impact, What if CDN fails itself and we have reliability redundancy failure after health check of CDN failover? So if the architecture is down, how is dealt by the Google? So the other thing is downtime in Google services. What are the services it is actually relying on? So if there is a DNS failure, so how it's going to serve the things? Another thing is caching the view state, or what are the things it's caching? So it's just the templating, or it's taking all the view state or stuff like that.
It's
And the last
yeah, yeah. Please do ask.
last question is how it is supporting CMS integrations.
All right. For the caching, it relies on basically caching your UI, and it's caching your images and all the things, all the assets. So it relies on
Okay.
Google. It relies on Google CDN. So first it loads. The first time it would load on Google CDN, and the next time it would be coming. It would be loading from the Google cache.
Okay, so how it's dealing the CDN failure issues like reliability and redundancy?
That's something for my scenario. I was using Shopify, and Shopify has a 24/7 uptime. The CDN was never down, but if the CDN is down and something is cached on your on the Google end, it would be showing. But if something is not cached on the Google end, it's the first time you're loading it, it would definitely take a
Pinging the server.
yes.
Okay, so what is the impact of DOM size by adding all these CDNs and installing an extra layer on the HTML document
For the email or for the website?
for the website?
For the website, it relies on your server uptime and your CDN. So it definitely impacts on your architecture. If your architecture is not supporting it, it would definitely be, as I stated, for the website, it would be relying on your servers instead of Google. So Google can cache after the first load, but it would never rely on this if it's the first time.
Okay, and how much impact do we have after using AMP in bundle and dist size?
I'm sorry, I did not get your question.
So when we are creating the bundle for the bundles or distributions for publishing the application, how much application size is impacted by using the AMP?
So it is simply your HTML size, HTML file size. So it can be in KBs. It can never go up from 100 KBs or 200 KBs for your page. It's relying on the Google CDN for loading the JavaScript, and it's loading up data from there. So they have promised an uptime of all the time. So that's something that we can rely on.
That's great. And how it's dealing the data sanitization?
So for the data sanitization, it was the same case for us when we are building the emails. It's similar the case for the website. So it's using Google servers to connect with your database. So what you can do is you can sanitize the data. It would be coming from the Google. It would be encrypted when sending to the server or coming back from the server. Your app will understand the data, and it will Google will be connecting to your server on behalf of your page or your email.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Khalid.
Yeah.
Cheers.
So you can just whitelist Google in your Google's IP or Google's servers in your end and your application, and you can definitely be taking the
Makes
rest
sense.
of that, because all the calls will be coming through Google.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so I had a question.
Yep.
That there are so many different online website building tools like Wix and DoodleKit and Weebly and such, which are far more easier. And for a company like a startup company or a company that is that not that large in scale, so that company might use such website rather than using AMP. No doubt AMP has a lot of benefits, but it has a lot more restrictions as well. So what do you say that it's worthy for those small scale industries and such to go towards AMP, use AMP as a website building something?
Well, it depends on the use case. If you are looking for speed, if you're looking for reliability, you can definitely go with AMP. But these days, most of the companies or most of the startups are relying on different third-party tools like or different frameworks. So that's something that to be considered. But when it comes to Google or speedifying your index, it would not look if it's Google AMP or if it's some other server supporting your search engine. It would rely on the core web vitals. So it relies on how your page is performing. It would rely on how fast is your website and how adaptive it is. It's definitely worth it a try, but if you're building a larger scale application or a larger website, it's not something to be considered for.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem.